All right, welcome to your deep dive. So today we're going to be looking at chapter 9. Yeah. And it looks like it's probably from a memoir, maybe a collection of essays. But this chapter really dives into a pretty personal story about trauma and how someone recovers from that. And get this, there's some humor in there too. It's really kind of amazing to see how our minds can deal with stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think what's really striking about this chapter is how it brings together trauma and medication, and then how that all plays into the subconscious, you know? And we're really getting like a firsthand look at what that's like what that state of mind is actually like.
Yeah, and the narrator actually calls these morphine trips,
Mm.
right? Because, they're in the hospital, they've got some pretty bad injuries and sepsis on top of it. And they're on a lot of morphine, and that's triggering hallucinations. But here's the thing, they're not just random. Like
Yeah,
they're
no.
they're actually revealing some deeper stuff, some deeper emotional truths, it seems like.
Yeah, the narrator even says these experiences are coming from like a deep place within, almost like the morphine is like a key or something, unlocking this hidden door to their subconscious. Pretty wild, huh?
Absolutely. And there's this one part, I don't know if you remember this, but the purple shirt incident. So the narrator is just fixated on this shirt, right? Like how uncomfortable it is, how badly they want to change out of it. But get this. The shirt is actually their own skin, like their damaged, discolored skin from everything that's going on.
Wow, yeah. It's such a powerful example of how the mind, takes what's going on inside and expresses it through something outside, something concrete. The narrator can't really come out and say, "Hey, I'm in so much pain," or "I'm terrified." So it comes out in this desperate need to change a shirt. I mean, it's heartbreaking, but there's also this, I don't know, this dark humor in it too.
Right. It's like this really poignant cry for some kind of simple act of love, someone to help them change.
Hmm.
But the reality is, the reality is a lot more complicated than that. There's no easy fix.
Right. No, definitely not. And it makes you think about how vulnerable they must be feeling and how helpless and also how hard it is to communicate when you're going through something traumatic. Like their distress is getting lost in translation in more ways than one?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about Milka. So the narrator, they form this incredibly strong bond with Milka, right? Milka's this friend who comes to visit and just listens really intently. But then we find out Milka's not even a person. It's an IV pole. What'd you think about that?
Oh, man, it's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, it just shows you how much we need connection, to be supported, especially when we're going through something traumatic. Even when our mind's all over the place, we still crave that feeling of being heard and understood.
And it's like Milka doesn't even talk, right? Like the fact that she's just silent. But it's so powerful. Like the narrator, they find so much comfort in just being able to talk, to say whatever they need to without anyone judging them or giving advice. It's like being silent is, it's like the best way to show you accept someone, you know?
Yeah, that really hits home for me. I mean, we always talk about, the power of words, but sometimes it's just about being there, like really listening without having to jump in with solutions or any of those empty phrases people say. Just being present, being in that space with someone.
Absolutely. And then on top of that, the narrator, like they have these moments where they're totally lucid,
Yeah.
right? They know that Milk is not a real person, but they still can't shake that connection. It's like so powerful, even though they know it's not real.
Yeah, I mean that's the human mind for you,
Yeah.
resilient. All right, even when you're dealing with trauma and medication and everything's all disorienting, we still find ways to make sense of things, to find connections. It's like the narrator's mind is saying, "I need this, even if I have to like make it up myself."
That's a good way to put it. And the chapter also talks about these morphine trips,
Yeah.
right? And it's like it describes them as this kind of split reality. Like the narrator's living in these two different spaces at the same time, the harsh reality of their injuries and everything, and then this world of hallucinations where they find some comfort.
Yeah, that's something you see a lot with trauma, that duality of awareness, like you said. It's like the mind's trying to, I don't know, make sense of what's happening, trying to fit this traumatic reality with all these altered perceptions. It's gonna be so disorienting trying to hold on to like two completely different realities at the same time.
Definitely. And the chapter doesn't shy away from how hard it is, like how trauma can affect you long term.
Yeah.
The narrator even talks about the struggle to find healthy ways to cope with it all.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that trauma isn't something you just get over. It stays with you. It can affect everything, your relationships, how you see yourself, and the process of healing It can be long, you know. It's not always straightforward. There can be a lot of ups and downs.
Definitely. One thing that struck me though, even with all the hard stuff, there's still this sense of hope in the chapter. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
It-
Milka, right? Like the IV pole. It becomes this symbol of resilience, of the human ability to find comfort and connect with something, even when it's totally unexpected.
yeah, it's like a reminder that even when you're going through something really tough, you can still find moments of grace, moments of connection, even moments of humor.
And and it's interesting, right? Because the author doesn't actually tell us what happens to the narrator in the end. So we're left with this question: what will their journey look like? How will they heal? And it makes you think about your own experiences too, you know, with trauma, with resilience. How have you dealt with those things?
Yeah, I think this deep dive has given me a lot to think about, for sure. It's really made me think about the human mind, how complex it is,
Yeah.
and and how powerful connection is, and also how we can find strength in the face of adversity, even when things are really tough. Yeah, it makes you realize just how powerful the subconscious is, right? Like it can find ways to cope with things and even find humor in situations that, they're are really hard.
It's like our mind's always working to protect us, even when we don't realize it, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, think of it like a control room or something hidden
Mhm.
away.
Yeah.
And it's always watching, checking on how we're doing, making adjustments so we can keep going.
So like if we think about the narrator in those morphine trips, maybe they're not just random hallucinations. Like
Yeah.
what if they're actually coping mechanisms? Like that's how their subconscious is dealing with all this stuff.
Exactly. It's like it's using whatever it can to create this sense of safety, to feel connected. And for the narrator, that happens to be, well, an IV pole named Milka.
It makes you wonder what kind of stuff is hidden in our own experiences, right? Like what can we learn if we pay more attention to those gut feelings or dreams or even those weird feelings you get that you can't really explain.
It's almost like learning a whole new language, the language of the subconscious, you
Yeah.
know. And once you start to get it, the symbols, the metaphors it uses, man, you can learn so much about what's going on inside.
This deep dive has definitely made me want to pay more attention to those little things, those little cues. And it's also made me think about compassion, like for ourselves
Mm.
and for other people.
Yeah.
Because we never really know what someone else is going through. And
Yeah.
sometimes the best thing you can do is just listen. Don't judge. Just listen.
Oh, that's so important. I mean, we're always trying to fix things, find solutions, right? But sometimes the best thing we can do is just be there. Create a space where someone can talk about their struggles without feeling like they have to, fix anything.
It's like what we were saying about silence, right? How
Yeah.
healing that can be.
Yeah.
Sometimes the best gift is just being present, being willing to listen without interrupting or
Yeah.
judging.
Yeah, think about Milka again. Just standing there, silent, steady, just offering that comfort, that connection without having to say a word. It's a beautiful image, you know. It really shows the power of just being there for someone.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left thinking, how do you find meaning? How do you find comfort when things get tough? What are your milkas,
Mhm.
those unexpected sources of support that have helped you through those times?
And how can we all get better at that compassionate listening for ourselves and for the people around us? It's something to think about, as we move forward.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's been great exploring this chapter with you. Until next time, keep diving deep.